Housing prices are surging all across the Bay Area with one major exception.
That's right. Home values in Oakland are falling faster than almost anywhere else in the country.
Here's a number to start with. $3.3 million. That's what one Pacific Palisades homeowner says it'll actually cost her to rebuild the two-bedroom house she lost in the January 2025 fires. Her insurance check only covered $700,000 of that. Her land is still sitting empty right now, in July 2026, a year and a half later, because building it back isn't a money problem anymore. It's a regulatory one. And she's not alone. Right now, up and down the California coast, a specific set of rules is quietly deciding which beachfront properties are worth owning and which ones are turning into dead weight. I'm talking about setbacks, the distance a building has to sit back from the bluff or the beach. And this year, those rules just got a lot more complicated. So if you own something on the coast, you're renting near it, you're thinking about buying, or you just like understanding how these markets actually work, stick with me for the next 10 minutes. I'm going to walk you through exactly what changed, why it changed, and what it actually means for your money.
Let's start really simply, because a lot of people hear coastal setback and just tune out. A setback is just a required gap. It's a rule that says if you want to build or rebuild here, your structure has to sit a certain number of feet back from the edge, the bluff, the cliff, the beach, whatever the hazard is. The idea is basic. If the ground under your house is eroding, you don't want to build right up to the edge of it. For decades, California's coastal setback rules were pretty stable. Then the science on sea level rise and erosion started moving faster than anyone expected, and both the state and individual coastal cities started rewriting the numbers. That's the part that's been happening in 2025 and 2026, and it's the part nobody explained very well to regular homeowners. Here's who's actually in charge of all this. The California Coastal Commission is a 12-member state agency that's been around for about 50 years, created after a huge oil spill off Santa Barbara back in 1969. Its whole job is protecting the coastline, habitats, public beach access, and making sure development doesn't make erosion or flooding worse. On top of that, individual cities like San Diego have their own local building codes that layer another set of setbacks on top of the state ones. So when people say, the Coastal Commission is making my condo unsellable, what they usually mean is some combination of state rules, city rules, and insurance company decisions, all stacking on top of each other at the same time.
Let's go back to that Palisades homeowner I mentioned at the top, because her situation is the clearest possible illustration of what's happening. Her name is Mei Sung. Her home sat on a hillside right above the Pacific Ocean. Before the fire, it was worth about $2.5 million. After the fire took it in January 2025, her insurance paid out $700,000. To actually rebuild something similar on that same hillside lot, she's now looking at an estimated $3.3 million once you factor in the coastal building codes, the engineering requirements for hillside lots, and today's construction costs. As of this month, she genuinely doesn't know if she'll rebuild or just sell the empty lot to a developer instead. Here's why that matters beyond just her. Right now in Sacramento, there's a bill called Senate Bill 1229 that's specifically responding to this exact problem. Currently, if your home was destroyed by a wildfire or another disaster, you can rebuild it without going through Coastal Commission review, as long as the new house is roughly the same size, no more than 10% bigger than what burned down. Governor Newsom actually loosened that exemption further last year to speed up rebuilding in Los Angeles. The new bill would tighten that back up, but only for future disasters and only in a specific way. It would still let the original homeowner rebuild freely, but it would require actual commission review if an investor buys the burned lot afterward and tries to build something new. The bill already passed the state Senate and is waiting on an assembly vote as we speak. Why does an investor angle even matter here? because more than 40% of the homes sold in the Palisades last summer went to buyers with LLCs, corporations, or homes in their company name. In other words, investors, not families rebuilding their own lives. When rebuilding gets this expensive and this complicated, a lot of regular homeowners just sell instead. And when regular owners sell to investors instead of rebuilding, entire blocks of the coast start changing hands in a completely different way than most people realize. This is the exact dynamic that eventually filters down into the condo market too. If it's this hard to rebuild after a disaster on the coast, imagine being on the board of a beachfront condo association trying to figure out what happens if your building needs major structural work.
Now let's zoom in to a very specific, very concrete rule change, because this one already took effect. On July 1st of this year, San Diego rolled out updated Bluff setback standards. Before, the real setback distance, once you combined the city's 40-foot baseline with erosion projections, landed somewhere around 53 to 55 feet. As of July 1st, that number jumps to roughly 63 to 65 feet. That's close to a 10-foot difference. And on a coastal lot, 10 feet of buildable land is not a small thing. It can be the difference between fitting a full addition and not fitting one at all. Why the change? The city is working off updated science from the California Ocean Protection Council, which now projects San Diego's sea level could rise anywhere from about 3.6 to 7 feet by the year 2100, and that erosion along Southern California's cliffs could end up happening twice as fast as it used to. City planners are looking at somewhere between $200 and $370 million worth of coastal property that's exposed to this risk by 2050. That's the reasoning behind the stricter rule. If you're a property owner in Pacific Beach, La Jolla, Point Loma, or Ocean Beach, here's what actually matters to you. Any project that was submitted and considered complete before June 30th still gets reviewed under the old, less restrictive rule. Anything submitted after that date has to meet the new standard. That's exactly why local agents said their offices were slammed with paperwork all spring. Everyone was racing the deadline.
If you're wondering whether any of this bluff erosion concern is actually realistic or if it's just bureaucratic caution, there's a real place that answers that question. Pacifica, a small town just south of San Francisco. Homes were built there in the 1940s along a street called Esplanade Avenue, sitting on a sandstone bluff that geologists say has been eroding at somewhere between 1.5 and 2 feet a year for over a century. During a bad stretch of storms in the winter of 1997 into 1998, that erosion suddenly sped way up. 7 homes were undermined badly enough that the city ended up condemning and demolishing all 10 homes on that stretch. It happened again. In January 2016, after another round of severe storms, the city had to red tag and eventually tear down 2 apartment buildings on that same bluff. Dozens of residents were forced out with almost no warning. One longtime homeowner there told a local news outlet she'd put roughly $200,000 into maintaining her home before the erosion made it a losing fight, and she ended up selling. That's the actual worst-case scenario these setback rules are trying to prevent. It's a real place, it really happened, and it's the reason regulators aren't just being cautious for no reason.
Okay, let's talk pure numbers, because this is where it gets real for anyone holding property right now. On the insurance side, California homeowners' premiums have climbed roughly 20% or more between 2023 and the end of 2025 across multiple carrier filings. The state's FAIR plan, that's the insurer of last resort for homes that private companies won't cover, grew by 43% in enrollment between September 2024 and December 2025. In Pacific Palisades specifically, Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies found premiums rose 33% above general inflation between 2018 and 2022 alone, going from just over $5,000 a year to almost $6,700. On the sales side, here's what's happening city by city as of this summer.
San Diego homes are selling for a median of about $954,000, down 3% from a year ago, typically moving in around 23 days. Redondo Beach, right on the sand, has a median around $1.6 million, down about 1.6%, taking about 30 days to sell. Oceanside is actually up 4.1% to a median of $879,000, which tells you this isn't a blanket coastal crash, it's uneven and it's hitting older, bluff-exposed buildings the hardest. And in Capistrano Beach, waterfront listings are sitting for a median of 75 days, more than triple the pace of the healthier markets, even at a median asking price of $2.78 million. That gap, some coastal markets moving fine, others sitting for months, is really the whole story in one comparison. It's not that beachfront property in general is dying, it's that specific buildings in specific spots with specific insurance and rebuild problems are the ones getting stuck. This next part is genuinely happening as we speak, and it's a big deal. On June 26 of this year, the federal government formally announced its opening an evaluation of California's entire coastal management program. That includes the Coastal Commission itself. This follows years of friction between the commission and the Trump administration, especially over energy and offshore drilling policy, and it adds a whole new layer of uncertainty about how the agency will operate going forward. At the same time, back in April, the California Supreme Court ruled unanimously 7-0 that the Coastal Commission cannot simply override a county-approved building permit without solid legal grounds. That was a real limit on the commission's power. And there's an odd tug-of-war happening in Sacramento right now. Some lawmakers are trying to loosen the commission's authority to make housing easier to build, while that Palisades rebuilding bill I mentioned earlier is trying to hand the commission more authority specifically over investor-driven rebuilds. So here's the strange part. The actual physical rules, setbacks, erosion standards are getting stricter almost everywhere, but the legal and political authority behind those rules is genuinely unsettled right now, with a federal review underway, a Supreme Court ruling limiting the agency, and state lawmakers pulling in different directions depending on the bill. Nobody in this business can currently give you a completely confident answer about what the rules will look like even 2 years from now, and that uncertainty by itself is scaring off buyers and lenders.
Here's the piece that doesn't get explained enough, and it's the actual heart of this whole topic. If you own a single-family home on the coast, worst case, you deal with your own rebuild problem, but a condo building is shared. If a beachfront condo built in the 1960s or 70s ever gets seriously damaged, a fire, major storm damage, a structural failure tied to erosion, putting it back exactly as it was isn't really an option anymore. The replacement building would likely have to meet today's much stricter setback line, and depending on the lot, that could mean losing real usable space, fewer units, or a completely different building footprint than what's there today. That single fact changes how banks and insurers look at these buildings right now. Some lenders are starting to ask condo associations directly for their rebuild and setback contingency plans before approving new mortgages in a building. Insurers are pricing in not just today's risk, but the cost and complexity of a future rebuild that might come back smaller than what exists now. And HOA finances matter enormously here. In buildings with strong reserves and healthy finances, prices can still set records. A 2-bedroom condo on Esplanade in Redondo Beach sold for $2.4 million this past January, a record for that building. But in older buildings with thinner reserves, units are sitting on the market far longer because serious buyers are pulling reserve studies and asking exactly the kind of questions we've walked through in this video. So it's not that every beachfront condo is unsellable. It's that the gap between the well-positioned buildings and the exposed ones is widening fast, and a lot of owners genuinely don't know which side of that line they're on until they actually try to sell.
So let's bring this all the way back around. Right now, on the California coast, you've got stricter physical building rules, a federal government actively reviewing the agency that enforces them, a Supreme Court ruling limiting that agency's power, and state lawmakers arguing over whether to loosen or tighten the whole system.
all happening at the same time. That combination is exactly why nobody can give you a completely straight answer about what a beachfront condo will be worth, or even legally rebuildable as 5 years from now. And that uncertainty, more than any single storm or any single rule, is what's turning some of these properties into the kind of asset nobody wants to be the one still holding when the situation finally gets sorted out. If this is the direction things keep heading, homeowners, renters, and investors along this coast all have good reason to keep watching closely, because the next update out of Sacramento, San Diego, or Washington could shift this market again just as fast as the last one did. If you found this useful, subscribe for the next breakdown, and drop a comment with the coastal city you want me to look into next. I read every one of them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.